Hello everybody. Hope you're having a great day. It's a Nice Tale here, bringing you a knife overview. Not a full review, because I did not use or carry this knife. This was sent in to me to check out by White Mountain Knives, because they're awesome. Definitely links below. I don't make anything off of those. I don't have a link with them, but maybe if I can grow. Right? The knife's over here. This is a WE knife, obviously. You can kind of see that. This is the WE Epaulette. Gavco named all of his knives after sharks, and the Epaulette is a shark, a small one. I said this in the unboxing, but it can sort of use its fins to walk on the bottom. They're interesting sharks, harmless. Still not 100% seeing an epaulette in the design. That's just me, though. I mean, how many sharks can you see in the design, right? So, without further ado, I suppose, I don't really have anything else to say specifically. Let's get to specs. Alright, specifically specs. Yeah, right. The overall size of the epaulette. Let's see. You've got 3 3/8 of a blade. Just a little bit over 7 3/4 of overall length. And just a little bit over 4 3/8 ish of handle. Not terrible ratios. Those are inches, by the way. We will make a quick comparison to sibling knives, because those are what I use on this channel. The comparison knives being the small knife comparison of the WE, or not the WE. There is a WE. I don't have the WE. This is the Civivi Elementum. And the Civivi Conspirator. Update note, this thing is completely stripped out. This thing's been around for a while now. It's been taken apart more than a few times, and I guess I maybe went a little too hard on it one of these times, because it stripped the heck out. And there's a little bit of blade play I can't get out because I can't tighten it down anymore. That has no bearing on this knife, but just wanted to mention that. I just kind of think that this needed to be tooled deeper. Like the bit driver just doesn't go in deep enough. Honestly, it's a similar issue there. I haven't had the issue on WE knives. Let's just see. I don't think that one's going to have as much of an issue, but it could be tooled a little deeper too, honestly. I just like... the more that is engaged of the bit, the less likely that you have to strip it out, at least quickly. That's a side tangent. So, size comparison. Slightly shorter than the Conspirator. It is a little shorter. It's got a little bit of more wave, of course, so it's taller, but bigger than the Elementum. Very close to Conspirator size, though. So this is a full-size knife. Though I will admit, in practice and in hand, maybe it's because of the angles and everything, it feels almost a little smaller than it actually is. It doesn't have that sort of full-size presence that the Conspirator does, right? So, compact, but full-size. It is tall, but my doubts, that it's anywhere near a Spyderco. With the flipper tab, it is almost on par with a Spyderco. I'm completely wrong there. Okay, so this at its tallest, it's basically like right in this area, from here to here and to this. It's about as tall as a PM2. Thickness, it's not that thick. Weight, and here's the thing with this one. It feels, what the heck was that? Oh, that was that. I'm going to use that, so I need to get that. Hold on 1 second. It feels very, very light. Where is the balance on this thing? Right about where your finger grabs it. You don't really have a choke-up position. I certainly wouldn't choke up on that. You would definitely hurt yourself. So this is your only real grip position, and that's where it's balanced at. So it feels very nimble. It almost feels a little blade heavy, to be honest with you, which is kind of strange. But these are skeletonized really deep. I showed off in the unboxing, but here's a better look. Doesn't look like it's got any more skeletonization than normal, but they must be really deep or something because it feels quite light. And to support that, full titanium frame lock coming in at 3.48 ounces. So very close to an ounce an inch of blade here. You know, I can turn that off. That's a little too bright. Very, very close to an ounce an inch of blade here, which is pretty nice and pretty cool. And like, you're not going to be bothered by this thing. In and out of pocket, you could be bothered a bit by the pocket clip, which is a little bit tight, and or not tight. Well, yeah, I guess it's tight. It doesn't have quite as much flex as maybe I want it to, but it works. It works fine. It's great pocket clip. But over this texture, you do run some risk of eventually getting yourself. But the texturing is pretty smooth down here, so it's not something I'd be super worried about. Let me just stick it into the pocket real fast. Yeah, it's a little pinchy at the point of contact here, but it's not too bad, right? It's just mostly that it's stiff, so you're definitely being pushed into it. But the actual texturing, I don't know if that's going to bother the pockets too much, because it's super knocked down. Where was I? Hardware check. Well, we already know the hardware on the pivot, and the hardware on everything else is T8. T8 all the way around, including the lock bar insert, which is nice to see. And it's just this screw and this screw. Your pocket clip has this one. It's not reversible, so you don't have to worry about that. This is not something you ever probably need to deal with, so you've got 2 screws to take this thing apart with a standoff in the back. Very, very simple, straightforward construction. Before we get to the calipers, I'll do one last size comparison for those who... Oh, I turned off that light now. It feels like dark in here because it was right in my face. There's it compared to AA batteries. You don't quite have the full length of AA batteries to get your hand grip. I mean, I can certainly get more than a full 4-finger grip on it. Bigger hands can probably do the same. Really big hands, maybe, but you have issues with everything else. Your hands are huge. So, yeah, there it is compared to AA batteries. They're honestly almost as long as the entire frame. Calipers. Got to finish these specs. Now, this is a contoured... You know, I didn't even go over what the knife technically is. I just jumped into specs. That's what I was thinking about doing. Well, it's a titanium frame lock on bearings, which is pretty standard in M390, which is not quite standard from WE. They usually use 20CV, but that might be a Crucible thing. Collab with Gavco. In their polished gray finish, which they executed perfectly on this one. Not always the case, but they executed it perfectly. It looks really good on this one. I have seen splotchy ones. But maybe they're getting better at it. I don't know. Oh, and it's, as I said, it is contoured. That is nice. So it feels really good in hand. At the maximum thickness of the contour, we have about 510 thousandths. So basically a half an inch is what you're working with here. Now, this is weird for WE. That is thick blade stock for WE. 156 thousandths. 57 thousandths. Somewhere in there. That is thick for WE and their general knives, and it is definitely something you notice because it doesn't come down. It does reach a very thin edge, but it gets thick quickly. Which is a bit unusual for WE knives, honestly. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. In fact, it's probably good. This is more of a slightly heavier use kind of all-arounder knife. Maybe a little thick for that, but every lineup needs some of those, and some of the thinner ones, just not overly, ridiculously has trouble cutting. Which, based on the edge here and my experience with WE knives, I don't think it will. But as I said before, this is not my knife. White Mountain Knives sent it in, so I'm not going to cut with it. I'm not going to cut with it. I'm not going to carry it. The only thing it's done is gone in and out of my pocket a couple times to see how the clip worked. And been flipped. Otherwise, this will be a pristine knife. And honestly, it is pristine. It came in very good condition. Final thickness and the final spec dimension is behind the edge, which is about there. No, there. So, yeah, 13 to 14 thousandths behind the edge, I'd say is a pretty safe bet. Which is quite thin, quite nice. So you definitely got some room to work here. But once you get past, the first, 3 sharpenings that you're probably going to get, it's going to get pretty fast going up there. That brings us to the end of our specs section, I believe. So, my thoughts on this knife and just sort of a general view. It's nice. It's not redefining anything. It's a titanium frame lock. It's a nice one. It's very comfortable in hand. The blade is useful shape. You can get to the tip. It's got a lot. It's all belly. It's reasonably sharp, as is true to WE. Very minimal billboarding. You had the Gavco for the collab, but beyond that, I do kind of wish they didn't say Gavco underneath the logo. Just put the logo. Other than that, the pivot is the only thing that says WE on it, and that is how I like my WE knives. Very minimal, very clean. The plunge grind ends about here, which is fine. Could it be better? Could it be back here? Sure, and give you the full choil, but it gives you a good percentage of it. At least on this one, seems to end about there. Ish. So you at least have the choil size. The jimping is good and functional on the blade. The cutout works and is functional. It's easy to get to. Throws out the blade nicely. I haven't tried a thumb flick. It's a little bit big for a thumb flick. Okay, if you go low, you can thumb flick it. Yeah, okay. You just have to go low for it. Up here is a little bit big, and you're kind of on the lock bar, and it's tight. So, or you slip through it. You don't got the leverage. Down here, though, works just fine. And the action, and this was this way out of the box, almost drop shot. This is really good action. It's very light shake shot. Very nice action. Very, very spectacular, especially considering WE's have had a history. They've definitely changed their things up and improved a bit, but they've had a history of being a little bit tighter. Speaking of hole and action, do not quote that. Easy access, good D10. Very solid pop. It is but you have a good amount of leverage up here, so it's not hard at all. In fact, can I fail it? Oh, yes, almost. Yes, you can fail it if you sort of cheat and you go way up in there, but push button, it's kind of hard to fail. But the D10 is good. The action is really good. And the centering is on the nose. Perfect. Little flipper tab, but works for the push button or the light switch. Little landing zone. Nice. Stop pin is, of course, out of the way. That's a benefit of the flipper tab. Then we move on from the blade to the handles, and it's got this very nice texture. It is very smooth, very soft, nice. We have these holes here, which are the only complaints I have. I kind of wish they weren't there. As you can see, they may be perfectly round, I'm not sure, but they interacted with the diamond pattern texture a little bit, so they look, and they probably are, slightly misshapen. Just based on the way they've interacted with the diamond patterning. Patterning. Jeez, man. My word just left me. So they look a little misshapen. I mean, they kind of look, from a distance, it doesn't bother me as much because it kind of looks like the whole thing's kind of, you can see a little bit of the peaks of the diamond pattern all around the thing. The little speed holes in the milling area. Tooling. Wow, words. Okay. It doesn't look bad, but up close you definitely notice that they look a bit misshapen, especially some of them. So not my favorite thing in the world here. Not like a deal breaker for me, because they do just kind of go with the general vibe of it. And I definitely like the diamond patterning. Patterning? Wow. Okay. Diamond pattern. I don't know if it's the way it interacts with the gray polish, or the way that it's tight and small here, or that it's you know, offset, but it definitely gives shark skin vibes, right? Which is cool. Not unpleasant to interact with in either direction, unlike shark skin. Frame lock. Lock bar with texturing on it. The lock bar is... It's got a... It's probably part of the detent, but it's got a pretty stiff lock bar. It's a little heavy on the lock bar. Not a whole lot of lock bar cut out. It's not hard to do, but it does require a little bit more than you might think it would. Like, I'm pushing into it a little bit more than I would necessarily think I needed to. But it's not uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form. I think it's mostly just because there's not a ton of excess room here. So you gotta interact with it a little more from the sort of an angle. Which is easy because they did bolt it out. But combine that with a strong, heavy lock bar. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. I'm certainly not having trouble with it. And it's easy enough to get to, it's just not from the side. Blade handle ratio is good. Blade seats nicely. Just a single standoff. I kind of would have liked to seen just a little backspacer here. Just a tiny one, right? Just something small here. It doesn't even have to be screwed into by the second screw of the pocket clip any more than it already is. Just a tiny little piece of titanium here with the same finish on it. I think that would have been really, really nice. I don't know why, I just think it needs it. That is, of course, subjective. And to finish things off is price. Now, price on the base model, which is actually a fully blacked out version that's not, polished, is like $276. Then you've got a tiger stripe pattern one, which is kind of appropriate for the shark, at like $280, I believe. You know what? I have it sitting right next to me. I might as well just take a quick look. $284.75. There we go. And this variant, along with the silver sibling, that is basically the silver polished variant of it, sit at $301.75. Now, that is a little bit too expensive for this knife, in my opinion. A little bit. It is a Gavco collab. Collabs always add, some money to the end of the final product, right? It's just the nature of them, because you have a specific or known designer who's signing their name to it. It's not just an in-house design or something, or a design that you've licensed from them completely. He's getting credit here, right? This is his design, etc., etc. You're probably paying a little bit more for that. It still feels a little bit overpriced. It doesn't feel like... It feels better than just your $200 or $220 WE titanium frame lock. It does. It's got contouring, great action, very well executed in every way. At least as well as it can be, in little misshapen holes. But it feels more like the base version should be $250 and this should be $275. Right? But that is also not the most egregiously priced of any WEs, or any knives that we've seen. I mean, some of their recent knives have been overpriced. Think about that one in that very plain, very good looking knife, but very plain one in Vanax. It's a decent sized knife, but it's very straightforward, very plain, very minimal. And that thing was like almost $400. This is definitely doing more, and I think because of the extra elements here, it does mostly justify its price. So I'm not too angry at it. I think that will wrap up the review here. Overall good, not fantastic. But if the design speaks to you, Gavco language speaks to you, this is not one that you should say, no way am I going to get that. It's nice. It's a nice knife. Just be aware that it's a little thicker than most WEs, and that's really all you have to be aware of. So that's the Gavco Epaulette. Gavco and WE Epaulette. I like it. Not completely in love with it, but I like it. Very comfortable in hand. Ergos are very good. So, no complaints there. That will do it for me. I don't know if anybody's stuck around to watch the whole thing or most of it, but if you have, I greatly, greatly appreciate that. And I would greatly appreciate if you'd like, subscribe, and comment, or share. You don't even have to comment, but I wouldn't mind sharing or just seeing how many views we can get. That will end things here. That is not completely centered. That will end things here. Thanks again to White Mountain Knives. And that will be all from me. See you in the next one.